I used to believe that every place had an exit, every road led somewhere, every map to be followed, every mistake could be corrected. But standing there at the end of that impossible road, staring at a wall of untouched forest where a highway should have been, I realized that some places don't follow the rules. Some places don't want you to leave. For several seconds, none of us spoke. The fog continued moving between the trees, slow and silent, while the GPS screen kept flashing the same row back toward Ashcroft. Ryan was the first to break the silence. He grabbed the device from the dashboard and threw it into the passenger seat. "This has to be some kind of joke," he said. "A glitch, a prank, something." Nobody answered because nobody believed that anymore. We had all seen the road disappear. We had all seen the blank map. We had all heard those footsteps coming from the fog. "Get in the car," I finally said. "We're going back." Sarah looked at me like I was insane. Back to that town. We don't have a choice. The truth was obvious. Whatever Ashcroft was, it was now the only place we could reach. We climbed into the car and drove. The entire journey back felt wrong. The forest seemed darker than before, and every few minutes I caught glimpses of movement between the trees. Tall shapes standing perfectly still among the shadows. Whenever I looked directly at them, they were gone. Nobody else seemed to notice. Or maybe they were too afraid to mention it. 20 minutes later, the town appeared through the fog, exactly as it had before. The same streets, the same buildings, the same frozen clock tower displaying 8:17, the same unnatural silence. It felt less like we had returned and more like the town had been waiting for us. We parked near the square and got out. For the first time, I noticed something strange about the air. It felt heavy, almost difficult to breathe, like the atmosphere itself was pressing against my chest. "We need answers," Ethan said. "Now." The obvious place to start was the diner. We crossed the street and entered through the front door. The bell rang overhead. Every head inside slowly turned toward us. The exact same people were sitting in the exact same seats as the night before. A man reading a newspaper, a woman drinking coffee, an elderly couple staring through the window. None of them appeared surprised to see us. The waitress behind the counter smiled. "You're back," she said. Her tone suggested she had known we would return. "The road disappeared," Ryan snapped. "What is this place?" The woman's smile never changed. "Ashcroft. Stop playing games." "I'm not playing games." Ryan stepped forward, but I grabbed his arm. Something about the people inside the diner made me uneasy. They were watching us too closely, listening too carefully. "We just want information," I said. "How do we leave?" The woman stared at me for several seconds before answering. "Nobody leaves Ashcroft." The entire diner fell silent. Even the faint sounds of dishes and coffee cups seemed to vanish. Nobody moved. Nobody blinked. Then the woman continued. "Not once they've arrived." A cold feeling spread through my stomach. Before I could ask another question, the lights flickered. Every person inside the diner suddenly looked toward the window. At exactly the same moment, it was like watching a room full of puppets, controlled by the same invisible string. We turned around. Outside, the fog had begun rolling through the streets again. Thick white clouds, swallowing buildings one by one. The waitress whispered something so quietly, I almost missed it. "They're early today." "Who's early?" Sarah asked. The woman immediately stopped speaking. Her smile returned. "You should go now." We didn't argue. We left immediately. The moment we stepped outside, I noticed the town felt different. The streets were empty. Every resident had vanished. Doors were locked. Curtains were drawn. It looked like an entire population had hidden from something. "We need to find a phone," Ethan said. "Or a radio, anything." We split up in pairs. Ryan and Sarah searched the gas station. Emily and Ethan checked nearby buildings. I headed toward the town library alone. The library stood near the edge of town, a large brick building covered in ivy. The front door creaked as I entered. Dust floated through beams of sunlight streaming from high windows. Rows of books stretched in every direction. The place appeared abandoned. I walked toward the reception desk. Nobody was there. Then I noticed something unusual. A large map hanging on the wall behind the desk. It showed county, roads, rivers, forests, and nearby towns. But there was one thing missing. Ashcroft. The town wasn't on its own map. My pulse quickened. I searched through drawers and cabinets looking for records. Most were empty. Then I found a newspaper archive stored in a metal cabinet near the back room. The papers were old, very old, yellowed with age. I pulled one out at random. The date read October 17, 1957. A headline stretched across the front page. Mysterious disappearances continue in Ashcroft. I froze. Beneath the headline was a photograph of the town square, the exact same square outside, the exact same clock tower. The accompanying article described residents vanishing without explanation. Entire families disappearing overnight. No bodies, no evidence, no suspects, just gone. I grabbed more newspapers. Every issue covered the same story. Disappearances, strange sightings in the forest, missing travelers. Then the article suddenly stopped. The final paper carried a single terrifying headline. Ashcroft evacuated after mass disappearance. Date, October 31st, 1957. After that, nothing. No future editions, no follow-up reports, no explanation. It was as though the town had ceased to exist. A loud crash echoed somewhere upstairs. I nearly dropped the papers. The sound came again. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps moving across the second floor. I wasn't alone. Hello? I called. No answer. The footsteps stopped. Silence filled the building. Slowly, I climbed the staircase. Every step creaked beneath my weight. At the top, I found a long hallway lined with doors. Most were locked. One stood slightly open. I approached cautiously and pushed it wider. The room beyond appeared to be an office. Dust covered everything. A desk sat near the window. Filing cabinets lined the walls. On the desk rested a photograph. I picked it up. The image showed a group of people standing outside the library. Residents of Ashcroft, smiling, happy, normal. Then my eyes drifted toward the corner of the picture. My blood turned to ice. Someone stood there, partially hidden behind the crowd. A tall figure, dressed in black, its face blurred, its body distorted. It didn't look human. A sudden whisper came from directly behind me. You shouldn't be here. I spun around. Nobody. The room was empty. My heart pounded. The whisper came again. This time from the hallway. I rushed outside. Still nobody. Then I heard footsteps racing downstairs. I followed them and burst through the front entrance just as Emily, Ryan, Sarah, and Ethan ran toward me. They all looked terrified. Wait, what is that? Oh, what is that? They said, what are you talking? What is that? Why here? What happened? I asked. Emily struggled to catch her breath. The gas station owner told us to leave before sunset. Why? He wouldn't say. Ryan shook his head. Everybody keeps saying the same thing. Nobody leaves. Nobody leaves. Nobody leaves. Ethan noticed the newspaper in my hand. What's that? I showed them the headline. Their expressions immediately changed. Sarah whispered. That's impossible. Sarah whispered. That's impossible. We stood there in silence staring at the article. Then a church bell rang somewhere in town. One loud chime. The sound echoed through the streets. Every resident suddenly emerged from their homes. Men, women, children. Dozens of them. They all stepped outside at the exact same time. And they all turned to face the forest. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. They simply stared. Watching. Waiting. Then we heard it. A distant sound coming from deep among the trees. Not an animal. Not a person. Something else. Something wrong. The residents immediately returned indoors and slammed their doors shut. The streets emptied again. "We need to get out of here tonight," Ryan said. "I don't care how." As we hurried back toward the motel, a gust of wind blew the newspaper from my hands. The pages scattered across the street. One sheet landed face up. I looked down and felt my stomach drop. There was another photograph printed on the back. A photograph of 5 people standing in front of the Ashcroft library. 5 people who looked exactly like us. Same faces, same clothes, same expressions. The only difference was the date printed beneath the image. October 19th, 1984. None of us had even been born yet, and yet somehow, impossibly, we were already there. To be continued.